And welcome to the Great American Mail, the biggest story of the day. This is a segment from today's podcast, and we'll put a link in the description if you want to check out the podcast, which we do daily, Monday through Friday. But this is something we're doing to try and promote the YouTube page. By the way, if you are checking this out and you like it, please subscribe and tell a friend. So what was the biggest story of the day? The biggest story of the day appears to be the Biden administration potentially wanting to take us to get over and get involved in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. And so they've been working on this. Ukraine is not a NATO member, right? And they've played and toyed with that, which we talk about a lot on the show. That exacerbates the problem because Putin considers a neighboring country on his border to be a member of NATO to be a hostile act. There's a bunch of other things out there, but basically he has said one of the things he wants out of this situation is for the Ukraine to agree to never join NATO. Setting that aside, that because they're not a member of NATO, we're not obligated to get involved in this war. And Biden, so far, and we congratulate him on that, so far he has not gotten involved in the war. We don't want to be, we don't think we should be involved in this war. While they're doing that, there are a couple of things developed over the last, say, 10 days or so, a couple of weeks while this conflict has been going on. And that is the Biden administration, while they're not obligated to get involved, and they said they don't want to get involved, they're kind of mentioning a bunch of things that would theoretically get us involved. And today they ratcheted up those things a couple more. So what are the things that we've seen in the past about trying to get us to get involved have been, one, the nuclear. So you saw a lot of the things coming out. It came from Ukraine. We don't know where it's coming from, but people said that they were bombing or they were, trying to burn down, or there were fires or something having to do with the biggest nuclear plant in Ukraine. I think it's also the biggest nuclear plant in Eastern Europe. And of course, that would circumvent the NATO, and that would also circumvent a lot of things and would cause the international community to have to get involved because we can't have, obviously, leaks of nuclear material. Now, that all turned out to be false, but I fully believe that that was an attempt to get us to get involved in a European war in a way that we haven't been since World War II, right? Well, we also saw yesterday, we saw images of a hospital. Now, I don't know, and we're going to get to a bit here in a moment from Kamala. I don't know what it was. It's difficult to tell. I mean, we're in the fog of war. We don't really know what information that we're seeing is true, what information is false. But it's difficult to tell what's going on with that hospital situation. But it easily could not have been correct. We don't know. But it's another thing that will try and bring the world community in on this crisis. And right now, the world community is 85, almost 90%. Putin is bad. We need to do anything we can do to stop this, which, again, this is when things get dangerous, when you're starting to talk about leaders. It's one thing if your leaders are doing silly things and the price of oil is going up and the price of gas is going up and food is going up. It's one thing even if they're not educating your kids properly. But when their incompetence is leading you into a European war, that is a huge problem. So a couple of things broke today I'm going to tell you about. First, Marco Rubio was interviewing one of Biden's administration officials as an expert on Ukraine, a woman named Victoria Nuland, and she had this to say. I want you to take a listen, and we're going to talk about it. Take a listen to Marco Rubio talking to Victoria Nuland, who is an expert on the Ukraine. Here we go.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Now, again, this is dangerous stuff here. And the reason I say it's dangerous is that's nothing more than her opinion. Now, I don't know why Marco Rubio is participating in this, but that's just her opinion. And again, a lot of these people, these are the same people that went and tried to impeach Trump over the Ukraine phone call. These are the same people that have been telling us a lot of the things out there that have later proved to not be true about a lot of the COVID policies, the vaccine policies, and mask policies. So I just don't know if necessarily these people can be trusted. But again, she's 100% positive. Again, that's an opinion. It's not a statement of fact. But setting all that aside, here's the problem here, right? This is something that would override what the USA would want to do. And this is if they have biochemical weapons or labs that the Russians are going to get their hands on, then that would be another reason to bring us into a European war. And again, just to be clear, the other thing that's interesting about that is what she's talking about is that would also, again, she's saying it's purely propaganda from the Russians, but we don't know if it is or it isn't. But if in fact it's not, then interestingly, right, then that would also support what Putin is saying, which is people are being aggressive as against Russia, and if you've got biolabs there, he may have a point. So here's another thing that came out today. Here's Kamala Harris talking about about another thing that's going on in Ukraine, and again, this would circumvent and would require us to go in there if it actually turns out to be true. And this is very dangerous rhetoric. This is not the thing that you should be talking about unless you have evidence and are ready to back it up. But again, this could be a lead up to us getting involved in a European war. Take a listen to Kamala.
The UN has set up a process by which there will be a review and investigations, and we will, of course, participate as appropriate and necessary. But we all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But just limited to what we have seen. Pregnant women going for health care, being injured by, I don't know, a missile, a bomb, in an unprovoked, unjustified war.
So she goes on for a little bit longer, but the main point there, because I want to keep these segments short to begin with, the main point about that is, again, that is now you're talking about war crimes. And again, war crimes, now all of a sudden, even though they're not a part of NATO, they're not an ally, we don't have a treaty, we wouldn't otherwise have any responsibility to get involved, these are things that they're putting on top of other things that would cause us to have to get involved. Now, I am hoping we're wrong about this. I'm hoping they're not trying to get us involved in a European war, but clearly they're trying to get something out of this. Now, so far, what I think it is they're just trying to get to be able to blame all the failures of the Biden administration on Putin. And here's a good example of that from Biden's Energy Secretary, Granholm. Take a listen to her.
And $4.17 is the price for the average price for a gallon of gas, for regular gasoline in this country right now. How high do you expect it to go, and how long will that last?
Yeah, it's that's the question. We don't know. Of course, we don't know how long Putin is going to terrorize Ukraine. We do not know how long his war will last. But let's be clear: these increases are because of Vladimir Putin. This is Putin's war. These are Putin's increases.
So again, we talked about this on the podcast, but the fact of the matter is they're not Putin's increase. So there's a couple things to unpack there. First and foremost, what you're going to see out of the Biden administration from here on out, every failure is going to be Putin. Now again, it's not Putin. The matter of fact is it's our reaction to what Putin is doing. That's just a fact. We didn't have to do some of these things. And initially, for example, we didn't stop buying Russian oil. Another thing to unpack there is Russian oil is only 10% of the oil that we get. So I don't see how it could cause that big a disruption if it was only 10%. The last thing is, and we covered it on the show on Monday and I believe on Wednesday as well, but we looked up the gas prices. So when Biden took office in March, the price of crude in this country was $67.90. By the time before the Russian-Ukraine conflict began, it had gone up to $97 $2,294.97. That was fully about a 50% increase. So it was Biden's policies all along that was causing the gas increase. Now, it's spiked since Putin has done what he's done. But again, it's not what Putin has done. It's the world's reaction to what Putin has done. And so let's hope that these people are right. Now, interestingly, if they are, these are the same people that tell us that censorship is good and tell us that CRT is not being taught in the schools and other things that turn out not to be true. So we shall see. Anyway, that was the biggest story of the day. If you like this, please subscribe, let a friend know, and tune back in. We're going to try to do these daily, but we'll see how it goes as it moves forward, and we will see you next time.